What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of the 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below. Thanks for being here, guys, to the best gaming related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. The Conduit was a really special title, guys, and sure, it had a lot of living up to do when the second title came out, and obviously the Conduit 2 did not meet expectations quite the way they were hoping. That being said, though, I want to talk in this segment of the show about the Conduit 3, the continuation, the much anticipated sequel to round out the trilogy of the Conduit, and where is this title? Could we ever see it in the future? Let's talk about it. So guys, in an article coming to us from Trevor Chan of Nintendo Life, although the Conduit had a lot of hype to live up to, it proved to be a pretty solid first-person shooter despite its flaws. The same can arguably not be said of its sequel, The Conduit 2, and senior producer Kevin Scheller explains why the game felt so rough around the edges. So, as part of a Game Centura feature, Scheller spoke about the effect of readying demos for shows and conventions had on the development timeline. Members of any team thrive when they have clear goals to accomplish and the deadline in which to accomplish them, especially when these are defined early and often. Unfortunately, the milestones were never defined with enough detail nor given to the team early enough. Instead, many of the goals given to the team were based on meeting requirements for product demos given at various consumer, media, and developer shows and conventions. So Chief Creative Officer Eric Knopfsinger has also given a dissection of what he felt went wrong with Conduit 2 and also the things that went wrong. The first positive that Knopfsinger talked about, which was evident from the beginning of the Conduit series, was that the studio is willing to take on feedback from the fans. Its Quantum 3 engine had also matured. The team felt like it knew how to get the most out of it, and because the studio had started on the multiplayer side of the game early, it was one area that felt sizable and refined. Compared to its predecessor, Conduit 2 was a more developed and evolved IP, and the general motivation and morale of the team was something that Knopfsinger felt was reasonable for making the game what it is today. That's not to say there weren't any bumps in the road. As Scheller had already pointed out, the lack of clearly defined milestones proved to be detrimental to the overall end product and ended up rushing the development of the game. Nailing the script with the right tone proved to be a difficult and time-consuming task. With other IPs that needed working on, like Tournament of Legends and The Grinder, the studio had to divide its attention up elsewhere. Lastly, the studio had to say goodbye to numerous staff members during 2010 as High Voltage Software laid off 25 employees. So, look, first of all, I think, one of the things that's really important to kind of lay out here, guys, with the Conduit 2 is obviously that they were splitting the team up. I mean, they didn't have all hands on deck with the Conduit 2, which they definitely should have. High Voltage was not like some massive company, obviously, and they should have just allowed just the entire team to work on the Conduit 2. If they felt like really good about it, they should have just stuck with that and then, obviously go from one project to the next. When you have a massive team, guys, that's a little bit different. You can start splitting up into different teams and you're able to obviously start working on initial concepts and things of that nature for upcoming games. But then, obviously you're still able to kind of work on a number of games at the same time. This is a situation I feel that the Conduit 2 definitely needed all hands on deck. And we always talk about the two things that can really hurt or can help a franchise moving forward is, of course, guys, the reception and the sales of a title. And Conduit 2 got a 64 on Metacritic. I mean, that's not awful, but it's not great either. It doesn't necessarily warrant a continuation from that perspective, especially when you had, a lot of high regard for the first Conduit title. Now, Game Informer gave it a 6 out of 10. GameSpot a 7 out of 10. When we talk about the highest one was Game Trailers gave it a 7.9 out of 10. And then even IGN gave it a 7.5 out of 10. So that's not terrible, but it's not great either at the same time, or at least up to the expectation of what they wanted. The other thing, though, guys, that really has struck me as a reason why I believe that Conduit 3 has not happened yet, it has to do a lot with the exclusivity to it being on the Wii. And obviously, look, you obviously can bring it out on Nintendo, on the Nintendo Switch eventually, and things of that nature. But I feel that, a lot of people played the Wii, but it was more of like a kid-friendly type of console. Now, I know it's changed somewhat with the Nintendo Switch, but at the same time, it still feels like it's more, still a kid-friendly type of console. So I feel that this is a title I would have loved to see on multiple different consoles, and even on PC I think would have been really cool, because it had single player, it had multiplayer. I think it could have been something pretty special. I think, guys, it was just a storm of a number of things that got this title to not perform the way that we were expecting it to. And at the end of the day, we see now we don't have a Conduit 3 yet. Could we ever get one, though? I do believe it's very possible, guys. What it really comes down to is us as a community voicing our opinion to the developers, to the publisher, saying, hey, we want this game made. And those things, guys, you wouldn't believe what that can do for, for the just the integrity, but also just building momentum around a title. I mean, trying to get these games made a lot of times comes down to the community. If the community wants it, a lot of times it's something that the developer and publisher would certainly at least talk about. But let me know, guys, what do you think? Do you think that Conduit is going to be a title that we could see a continuation of in the form of Conduit 3? Or do you think this game is pretty much dead in the water, not going to be coming out at any point in the foreseeable future? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And for more Conduit 3 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. Resident Evil is one of my favorite horror franchises of all time. Guys, I have absolutely loved Resident Evil since Resident Evil 5 really is when I really got into it, and it's really carried over to Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil Village, just unbelievable title after unbelievable title. That being said, guys, a title I would really like to see a continuation of in the Resident Evil universe is Resident Evil Outbreak. I'd love to see a sequel to this. I know we got file number 2, but I would love to see a direct sequel to this, a Resident Evil Outbreak 2. And I want to go ahead and talk about this, guys. Could we possibly get a sequel to this at some point or another? Let's get into it. So, guys, in an article coming to us from Joe Pring of We Got This Covered, while Resident Evil 3's upcoming remake will undoubtedly be demanding the lion's share of fans' attention right now, whispers of what the future will bring for the series are already beginning to circulate. We know, of course, that Capcom will eventually follow up, obviously Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 8, and that's definitely something that will be coming at some point or another. So with the wait of potentially several years still to go on that front, how exactly does Capcom expect to fill the void? Despite their popularity, Aesthetic Gamer says the company has no current plans for more remakes, though does claim that one is yet announced Resident Evil title is on course to be released next year. And obviously, guys, unfortunately, Aesthetic Gamer declines to divulge any further details beyond the ones that we're seeing. So all we can do right now is speculate, assuming remakes and direct sequels truly are off the table, though our best guess would either be a spin-off in the same vein as Umbrella Corps or an Outbreak reboot. The latter has a massive cult following among veteran fans of the series, many of which have been hoping to see a continuation for more than a decade. So let's talk about this, guys. I mean, obviously, with Resident Evil Village, unbelievable title overall. Resident Evil 7 was incredible as well. So where do they go from here? I mean, look, we've had remakes, we've had all those things. I think all of us want to see a direct continuation off of Village, which I'm sure is what we're going to be getting here. But I would also love to see, I mean, maybe even just a remake of Outbreak, I think would be really cool. Or even, a reboot of Outbreak would be really awesome as well. But a sequel to it, I think, would be really special. The thing about having a remake or a reboot or something of that nature would help, I think, bring in new fans into the Outbreak, that, that ecosystem essentially of Outbreak and what made it special for a lot of the older gamers who kind of grew up playing that game. Before being confirmed as the dedicated multiplayer component for Resident Evil 3 Remake last year, many had hoped Project Resistance was going to be exactly that, but alas, no dice. With any luck, though, Capcom will have taken note of the huge demand for Outbreak's return and finally greenlight a third entry. So, obviously, guys, we're in 2022, and this has not been greenlit, or at least we have not had confirmation, or a leak has not come out that it's been greenlit at this point in time. Is it something that could happen? Absolutely. Is it something that may not happen? I mean, that's obviously a possibility as well, depending on which direction Capcom wants to go. However, what I will say, guys, is something I say all the time on this YouTube channel. We as the audience, we as the consumers, as the community of Resident Evil, we got to voice our opinion to the developers saying, hey, we want this game made in some way, shape, or form, whether it's a remake, reboot, or a direct continuation, that being in the form of Resident Evil Outbreak. I think it's definitely something that could happen in the future, guys, but I really believe that this is one of those titles that is going to need the community to come together to get it made, because I don't know if Capcom's really got it planned at this point in time. I think they more so are looking at, okay, what's next after Village, and then maybe along the journey they decide to bring back Umbrella Corps or something else. But it'd be really awesome to see Outbreak return in some way, shape, or form. But let me know, guys, what do you all think? Do you think that Resident Evil Outbreak is something that we could get in the future, or do you think it's something that's probably not going to happen for a long time? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And for more Resident Evil Outbreak 2 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. Red Steel 2 and Red Steel as a whole, guys, was a first-person shooter game that was a hack and slash game that was pretty special in my opinion. I really enjoyed this title, and it was one that I really would have loved to see a continuation of in some form or another. At least have a third title to kind of round out the trilogy. I think could have been really special. But I want to talk in this segment of the show about what happened to Red Steel, and could we see a potential return to this franchise at some point or another. So let's get into it. So guys, this is a title, Red Steel 2 being the most recent of games in this series, came out in 2010. And with that being said, guys, obviously we've talked about this many times, but the two things that can really help or hurt a franchise is, number one, the sales of the game, and number two is going to be the reception. And so the first thing obviously is going to be, we're going to look at the reception. We'll look at the numbers as well, but the reception of this title was pretty good. I mean, when you look at Metacritic, it was 80 out of 100. That's pretty good. Destructoid gave it an 8.5 out of 10. You have Eurogamer giving it a 7 out of 10. Game Informer, 8 out of 10. I mean, you'll look at then Game Trailers, 8.6 out of 10. IGN, pretty much an 8.5 out of 10. And I mean, overall, the worst review that you got for it was really Edge and Eurogamer, who gave it a 7 out of 10. So overall, the reception was pretty great. Now, obviously, guys, when we look at the future of this title and what's been talked about, in April 2010, a French website spread a rumor that a sequel was in development, according to a Nintendo magazine. Jason Vandenberg feels enthusiastic about making a sequel, but said that the current state of the motion control market does not yet justify making a sequel. There were rumors at the time that a sequel would likely be a Wii exclusive and makes use of the Wii Vitality sensor. Since the launch of the Wii U, no further news of a sequel has surfaced. So pretty much, guys, the Wii, obviously we know that the Wii is no longer really even relevant at this point because of the Nintendo Switch. And so unless they come out with a new Wii console at some point, it's like, are they going to bring Red Steel 2 and like maybe remaster these for the Switch and then maybe bring a Red Steel 3 into the fray at some point? It feels like Red Steel, all in all, was almost like a forgotten title. It was a title that was totally forgotten about after that transition from the Wii to the Switch happened. And that's a really unfortunate thing. This is another title that was, exclusive to the Wii. And obviously, guys, I've talked about the console exclusives. It's really an unfortunate ordeal because I want there to be having console exclusives is good to a degree, but at the same time, if you really want to reach the full potential of a game, that being like the full-blown ecosystem that this thing could build, you want to have it on multiple consoles so that everyone gets a chance to play it. And so obviously Red Steel 2 wasn't given that opportunity. I would really like to see that moving into Red Steel 3. Could this be something we get in the future? I absolutely think it is. I think it's something that we could see, but it feels like it's been almost forgotten by the developers, by the publishers. And so I really hope this is something that they decide to bring out in this current landscape of gaming, because I think it definitely deserves to play a part in this gaming ecosystem at this point in time. But like I said, guys, I'll keep you guys all informed as further information comes out, which obviously there's not a lot of information that's come out over the past number of years. But let me know, guys, do you think we'll get a Red Steel 3 at some point or another? Or do you think this game is in a limbo state or a state of no return? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And for more Red Steel 3 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, all I ask is that you hit that thumbs up button, guys. Helps out the YouTube channel in a massive way. Subscribe if you're new. You get notified every single time a new video goes up on the YouTube channel. Stay positive. Just keep grinding. And as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.